Hello! In case you're wondering how I came up with today's topic, this video is actually for one of my uni classes, but I thought it might be interesting, so I'll also upload it on my channel. So yeah, bit weird today. So, as you already read in the title, I want to talk about social media. Because guess what? It's a very important part of my life, and actually most of my life takes place on social media, and if you wanted to be dramatic, you could even say that in a way it saved my life. And I feel like most people see that as a negative thing. Like, they think I'm constantly on Instagram comparing myself to others or having counterproductive discussions on Twitter that only spread negativity. And when I meet someone in real life, I'm always stuck to my phone because I'm scared that I might miss out on something online. Oh, and of course my own profiles are just for self-presentation because I think I'm the most interesting person in the world. And to be fair, I guess some of these things are true or used to be true at one point in my life. Of course, what I'm doing right now, making a video about my opinion on a certain topic, is a form of presenting myself to other people. But isn't everything we do that is somehow visible to others self-presentation? No matter where we go, we always present ourselves in some ways, and sometimes more, sometimes less, control the impression we make on the people around us. That happens at school, at events, when getting to know people, and even in the presence of people who are already close to us. The big difference with social media, of course, is that it's accessible for basically everyone, everywhere, and at every time. I think it makes the whole self-presentation thing bigger and more visible, but the concept is not new. And to be honest, it annoys me when people say that this is only a social media problem. So yeah, for example, my YouTube channel is definitely a way of presenting myself. But that's not the reason why I do YouTube. I started making videos 6 years ago because it's fun and I like discussing with myself and with other people. In this case, the other people are you, or at least those of you who comment on my videos. I also want to educate people on topics that are important to me, and the greatest side effect all of this ever had was that it helped other people. Because even though my channel is really small, there are relatively many queer people who message me and tell me that my videos somehow help their situation. And that might be the biggest compliment I ever got, and it makes me extremely happy. Also, I don't think that I ever stuck with the hobby as long as I did with YouTube, even though there were times where I didn't upload much. With this, I just found something that I really love, and I also think I'm good at it. I'm not saying I'm the most professional video creator ever, quite the opposite. I learned everything by myself, and 6 years later I'm still not done learning. And I guess that's another cool thing about the internet. It enables you to teach yourself almost everything. So I'm not a professional, but the way I personally make my own videos works really well for me, and the most important thing is that it's something that is 100% mine. And at this point I doubt that I will ever completely stop making videos because I just love it so much. I mean, never say never and everything, but I think I need this at least in some way. I don't know. But yes, even though I consider my YouTube channel as well as my other social media profiles as pretty authentic, and by that I simply mean that I think they do give a pretty good impression of how I am as a person, they of course don't show everything about me. And I wouldn't want them to. Even though I also talk about negative aspects of my life because I want to keep it real, there are things that I keep private. Sharing certain things about my life was a choice, but so was not sharing some others. And everyone needs to decide themselves where to draw this line of privacy. But I think by now most people are aware that social media never fully represents a person. And I think as long as you know that, there's not necessarily a problem with it. Another thing that is often criticized, especially about Instagram, is that it reinforces ridiculous beauty standards and lifestyles. And fair point. Most of Instagram seems to be this total dream world where everything and everyone look perfect, which makes everyone else feel miserable about their own life, and that's pretty unhealthy. But to be honest, I never really saw it like that. I'm not saying that this side of Instagram doesn't exist. I know it does, and I know it's probably the biggest part of Instagram, and I know that this is a big problem for many people. And like, I've seen these sides, but it's not like my usual territory. I have Instagram since I was 13, I think, and it has changed a lot. Back then it was really just to share photos in a really low quality with your friends. Then over the time I started to follow more and more public figures, and when I started YouTube it became more of a way for me to update people about my channel, and Then after a while, I guess it just became this perfect aesthetic thing. But the content I've always followed was never this typical Instagram influencer stuff, but more a way of staying up to date with stuff I was interested in. It's still mostly creative people like musicians, artists, YouTubers, or just people who talk about interesting stuff I don't even know. And I know that these people are also influencers in a way, but what I want to say is that I don't really follow any typical Instagrammers just because it doesn't interest me. And maybe that's why I was kinda spared the really unhealthy content. And I actually think that Instagram can be a very cool and creative platform. For example, in my year of voluntary service, I worked a lot with it and produced different content, and I absolutely loved it. I think you just have to find the cool stuff that actually makes you feel good and inspired or whatever. And by this I don't want to say that everything I watch and follow on social media is perfect, not at all. I'm aware that I could also improve some things and that not everything about my behavior on social media is completely healthy, but in general I think I found a good way for myself. And of course everyone's different and feels good about different content at all, and that's fine. Now let's come to the whole social media only spreads negative vibes thing. That can be true, but again for me it's all about finding the right corner for yourself. For example, I used to get into a lot of annoying and absolutely exhausting discussions on Twitter a couple of years ago. Many times I probably said some stupid stuff as well and had opinions that I think are wrong today because I grew up and my views changed and everything. And yes, these discussions spread a lot of negativity because people on Twitter can just be horrible and the limited number of characters doesn't really help with this. But nevertheless, Twitter is still one of my favorite platforms because A, it can just be very funny and entertaining, and B, I learned a lot from it. Not only from the horrible discussions, because now I know when to end a discussion because it won't be able to change anything and isn't worth your energy, but it also just taught me a lot of stuff in general. On Twitter I learned so much about things like feminism or racism or LGBTQ topics. And that shaped me and my opinions and principles a lot. And the most important thing is that I met most of my friends on Twitter. In general, I met most of my friends online, but Twitter was definitely the most important platform for this. It used to be this thing where we just connected because we watched the same YouTubers or we listened to the same bands or something, and then we became friends and met in real life, and yeah. And today it's not really about that anymore, but these people just kind of stayed and we've been friends for years, and I guess we grew up together in a way. And as a person who always struggled with finding a group of people to feel comfortable with, this whole community thing really saved me as a teenager. Because I felt like I was a part of something and it was a group where everyone was accepted. And yeah, I'm not saying that you can't find something like that offline, but for me it was easier on Twitter. Maybe because I could already get an impression and know about shared interests and stuff like that before really getting to know them. But I will just never forget this finding friends aspect of Twitter. Also, most of my friends live far away from me in different cities or even different countries, which is cool. I love that the internet gave me the opportunity to meet people from all over the world. But of course, that also sucks because you can't meet up anytime. The good thing is, we have social media to keep in touch. And maybe that makes some friendships even closer, because if you still make the effort to stay friends even though they're so far away, that means that you really care about each other. And also I feel like you talk a lot more because you often can't do anything else with the distance, so you get to know each other very well. So yeah, that's on online friendships. The thing I definitely learned the most about on social media was the LGBTQ community, and especially the trans community, for obvious reasons. I already mentioned that I got in touch with that over Twitter, but I got most of my information about it from YouTube, I think. When I was still in the process of figuring out my gender, I watched so many trans YouTubers talking about their experience and explaining how transitioning works and everything. That's why I'm doing the exact same thing now, because back then it helped me and now it's my turn to try and help other people. And in the first place, maybe I'd never found out that I'm trans without this. Maybe I would have kept feeling miserable about myself without even knowing the exact reason. Because you never learn anything about this anywhere. And as soon as I saw other trans people on social media, I was like, that would explain a lot in my life. oh shit, I'm trans. And second, this way I met people who experienced the same thing as me and who understand my struggle. That's already so valuable, just not being alone. And not to be dramatic again, but I genuinely think it saved my life. I don't know if I'd made it 20 years without knowing what's going on with me. So yeah, internet, great thing. Now the last thing that people seem to hate about social media is that when you hang out in person, people just look at their phone the whole time. And I agree, that's rude. And I think that's the point where you can notice that someone's addicted. I think I might have been like this a couple of years ago. I definitely think I was somewhat addicted to social media. Though I think I was still able to go without social media for a certain time, but I remember that it was really hard for me. However, I don't feel like it affected me a lot when I hung out with people in real life. Because I met my friends online and they lived very far away, obviously we couldn't meet very often, and that's what made these real life meetup things so special. It's still like that sometimes and I love it. Also because of this, we usually see each other for a longer time. So for example, we visit each other for a couple of days or something. So we definitely used to be on our phones a lot, but I don't think it bothered anyone. It was more a way of capturing moments or like to show each other funny stuff. But I think we were still very much in the moment and like appreciated each other's presence. At least that's how I experienced it, but if you are or were my friend and think about it differently, feel free to correct me. I think it's a difference if you're together and everyone's just silently looking at their own phone, or if you're looking at something together, because this way it's almost like a joint activity. Of course, that would also get boring over a longer time, but remember, that's not the only thing I did with my friends. But if you're hanging out with each other for like a whole weekend or something, it happens and I don't see a problem with it. But I also noticed lately that over time we definitely use their phones less and less. Partly that's also kind of sad because now there are less photos and videos, and I love having photos and videos of beautiful memories. But yeah, I guess we just kind of grew up, got less addicted. Maybe social media is also not that special or new for me anymore, and I understood that I don't really miss out on anything if I don't check my timeline for a couple of hours. That's definitely, yeah, relaxing. Like when I have time I can spend hours on social media, but when I don't, I can also just let it be. Oh, and I don't count the procrastination argument, because yes, I'm spending way too much time on social media when I'm trying to distract myself from stuff I need to do. But you can't blame social media for that. If I want to procrastinate, I will, and if there were no social media, I would do something else instead. So to finally end this video, let's just say social media helped me to find the best inspirations ever, the best hobby ever, and the best friends ever. And it helped me to figure out my identity and showed me the possibilities I have. Which means that because of social media I found out that I'm trans and that I can and want to transition. So yeah, that's why I love social media. I really enjoyed thinking about and making this video. And as I said, I'm always happy about comments. Tell me about your opinions and stories and everything. And yeah, have a nice day and stay safe.